Okay, so if you have not written your name, number, and date at the top, that means your whole name, your number, and your date. Use your red pen to do that right now. That will be lost points, especially because I said, okay, the first thing you need to do is write your name, number, and date. That should be the first thing you do no matter what. Okay. Everybody look at number 1. Number 1 is our vocabulary check. You have to write each word from the word bank on the correct label. These are the labels. They're labeling parts of a problem or a whole problem or all the problems. Okay, Victoria, which word goes in this box right here?
Fact.
Fact family, because this line, this like curvy pointed line, indicates that it's talking about all of this. So yes, the word that goes in this very top label is fact family. Okay, the next one. We're looking only at the multiplication problems. We have a label that's pointing to both parts before the equal sign. Smith, what word goes in this label right here?
Factor.
Factor. 2 and 3 in the equation, 2 times 3 equals 6, are both factors. Remember, factors are the parts of the multiplication problem that you are actually multiplying together. Doesn't matter what order the factors are in, do you think? No, it doesn't. That's why they don't have a different name. Okay, Kingston, this label is pointing to the answer of a multiplication problem. What word goes there? Product. Make sure you're being loud enough so I can hear you. Product. The answer to a multiplication problem is the product. Okay, now our next 3 labels are pointing at the division problems. This first label is pointing at the first number in a division problem. What vocabulary word means the first number of a division problem? Michaela? Dividend. The dividend is the first number in a division problem. It is the largest number. Now our next label is pointing at the second number in the division problem. Carla, what word goes on this label that's pointing to the second number in a division problem? The number that the larger number is being divided into.
The second number of a division problem is called the divider.
Not divider, but the divisor. There's an S in that word in the middle, not a D. So it's the divisor. The number that you are dividing by, the second number is the divisor. And then the last label is pointing at the answer to this division problem. Zari, what is the answer to a division problem called?
Quotient.
The quotient. If you spelled any of these words wrong, make sure you correct them with your red pen. You will lose half a point at least. So we notice in multiplication, the 2 numbers we're multiplying together have the same name. That's because it doesn't matter what order we multiply in. In division, we see the first number of our division problem and the second number of our division problem have a different name. That's because it does matter what order we divide in. The largest number always has to come first in division. Okay. Helper number 2. Please sanitize. Okay, so let's look at number 2 and 3. The directions say, use repeated subtraction to divide. So if all you have is the answer here and the answer here, go ahead and put -1 next to both of them. If all you have is the answer here and the answer here, please put -1 next to each one. That's what I went around and checked. There were only 2 people out of the 7 in this room. I don't know about at home. there were only 2 people out of the 7 in this room that followed the directions and used repeated subtraction. That's not good. Okay, we're going to have to do this after. Okay, so number 2, 18 divided by 6. I'm only picking one out of those people that showed the answer. They get to do these. Zadie, 18 divided by 6. How would we do that using repeated subtraction?
You take 18 minus 6.
And what do? I keep doing it until what?
You get to 0.
And then what do I do to figure out what my answer is? So I take 18, I subtract 6 until I get to 0. Well, how do I know what my answer is?
You count how many times you subtracted.
I count how many times I subtracted. Very good. So Zadie, you told me start with 18 minus 6, which equals?
12.
What do I start with next? What problem do I do next?
12 minus 6.
If you did not do this, use your red pen to do it now. Which equals?
6.
Then what do?
6 minus 6.
Which equals?
0.
Then what do?
You count how many times you subtracted.
Which was?
3,
1.
2, 3.
So that means 18 divided by 6 is?
3.
Good. Victoria, number 3. I do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Except I have different numbers. So what do I do now? Loudly.
You do 28 minus 7.
Which is?
21.
Then what?
4. Oh wait. 21 minus 7.
Which equals?
14.
Then what?
14 minus 7.
Which equals?
7.
Then what?
7 minus 7.
Which equals?
0.
Then what?
Count.
Count what?
Count how many times you subtracted.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
How many times did I subtract?
4.
So that means 28 divided by 7 is?
4.
Good. Okay, number 4. The directions for these say write the fact family for each set of numbers. Number 4, I have 6, 4, and 24. Aaron, tell me my first equation.
6 times 4 equals 24.
6 times 4 equals 24. If you just have these problems in a different order than what Aaron tells me, you're not wrong. Okay? That should be common sense, but I have a feeling I need to tell you. If you have, as long as you have the same equations, it does not matter what order they're in. As long as you have the same ones. Okay? Aaron, what's next?
4 times 6 equals 24.
So as long as you have one multiplication with 6 times 4 equals 24 and one multiplication problem with 4 times 6 equals 24, you are correct. If you have 2 that are 6 times 4 equals 24, then you are not correct. If you are missing one of these, then you are not correct. It doesn't matter what order. Okay? We're done with multiplication, so what do we have to do? What do we have to show now? Okay?
24 divided by 6 equals 4.
24 divided by 6 equals 4. And last one? 24 divided by 4 equals 6. So make sure you have each of those. So as I'm reading the problem, make sure you have it. Point to it on your page. 6 times 4 equals 24. I should see you pointing to it on your page. May not be the first one. 4 times 6 equals 24. 24 divided by 6 equals 4. 24 divided by 4 equals 6. Okay, number 5, we have 7, 6, and 42. Cullen.
7 times 6 equals 42. 6 times 7 equals 42. 42 divided by 6 equals 7. 42 divided by 7 equals 6.
So as I read the problems, make sure to point to them to make sure you have each one. Because if you don't correct when you have an incorrect answer, you lose double the points. 7 times 6 equals 42. 6 times 7 equals 42. 42 divided by 6 equals 7. 42 divided by 7 equals 6. Carla, I don't see you pointing to those to make sure that you do have them. It's too late now. I'm not even reading them anymore. So I've already said that, Carla. You have got to follow directions. Okay, number 6. There's a reason why we're going through these. You may be like, this is easy. Why do I have to show all of this? Why do I have to show my thinking? Why do I have to do repeated subtraction every time? I know my basic facts. It's because knowing the answer is not enough. Knowing the answer will get you to where you can pass your test. Knowing why the answer is why it is. Knowing the why behind it will make sure that not only can you pass your test in a couple weeks, you can also do well on Iowa's. When you see this later in life, you will also know how to do it. Knowing what the answer is will get you to your test in a couple weeks and no further. Knowing why the answer is what it is will get you to the test in the couple weeks and then everything that comes after. Just knowing the answers means you're memorizing for the test. Once the test is over, it's gone because you don't need it anymore, or so you think. Knowing why will keep it there. Okay, so you have to make sure when I say to show work on a separate sheet of paper, you're showing work on a separate sheet of paper. When it says use repeated subtraction to divide, just because you know the answer, well again, just knowing the answers is not enough. You have to know the why. If I say check, make sure you have each one. Do it. Otherwise you're not paying attention. You're like, I knew the answer, I don't need this. Again, you need to know why. Zadie, last one, 8 times 4, 8, 4, 32.
8 times 4 equals 32. 4 times 8 equals 32. 32 divided by 8 equals 4. 32 divided by 4 equals 8.
Okay. So be looking, pointing to each one as I say it to make sure you have it. 8 times 4 equals 32. Carla, again, you're not listening. 4 times 8 equals 32. 32 divided by 8 equals 4. 32 times 4 equals 8. It's like you're making a checklist. Okay, we need to go to library. We'll finish this after library. So when library's over, yes, Sadie?
Don't you mean 32 divided by 4?
Sorry, 32 divided by 4 equals 8. Do you see what happens when you're trying to go fast and you're not paying attention? If I had turned that in, you guys caught me. But if is somebody always going to be there to catch your mistakes?
Nope.
So that means if you guys weren't there to catch me, I didn't just go back and check. So that means what's going to happen if I turn this in? Tell me.
You'll get it wrong.
I'll get it wrong. So there's not going to always be somebody else checking behind you. You have to check behind yourself. Just because you're done and you're like, oh, I'm done. You have to go back and check. You're not done until you've gone back and checked and you are confident you will get a 100. Okay. Okay, so let's look at number 7. It says, Jerry made lemonade with the lemons shown. Write a fact family for the array of lemons. Carla, how do we figure out what our what the pieces of our problem are? We have an array.
We will need to circle how many lemons.
Well, do we need to circle? Remember when we have an array. If we're looking at multiplication, our factors are the numbers of what? The numbers of
rows and columns.
how many rows and columns? Good. So Carla, how many rows are there here?
There are 3 rows.
3 rows. If you don't have this, you need to be writing this. And there are
4 columns.
4 columns. So that tells us what our factors are in multiplication. Well, how do we find the answer? By looking at an array.
We can count them up, but that would be too much long.
Well, say we didn't know how to, Carla, wait. Say we had no idea how to do multiplication. How would we tell what our total was just by looking at the array? So pretend we had no idea how to do any multiplication at all. How would we figure out our total? We would do what?
Math.
No, we would
By
just count
doing
them.
addition.
Carla, listen. If we had no idea how to do multiplication, we would count the rows, we would count the columns, and then we would count how many lemons. So Carla, count with me. 1, 2,
2,
3,
3,
4,
4,
5,
5,
6,
6,
7,
7,
8,
8,
9,
9,
10,
10,
11,
11,
12.
12.
So how many lemons do we have total?
We have 12 lemons.
Okay, now we know the pieces of our equations for our fact family. So now we just have to write the fact family. So Carla, go ahead.
3 times 4 equals 12.
Okay,
4 times 3 equals 12.
okay,
12 times 4 equals 3.
12 times 4 equals 3, Carla.
I mean, divided by.
Divided by, so make sure you have the divided by symbol.
Miss Wallace, you forgot the 2 dots.
No, I didn't, they're there. 12 divided by 3 equals 4, and what's the last one?
12 divided by 4 equals 3.
Okay, so make sure, I'm going to read these problems, make sure as I'm reading these equations, you are pointing to them to make sure you have each one. 3 times 4 equals 12. 4 times 3 equals 12. 12 divided by 3 equals 4. 12 divided by 4 equals 3. You can have them in any order as long as you have all 4 of them. Okay, some of this next problem gave quite a few of you some problems, but that's just because you got to a word problem and you went, but did you need to do that? All you had to do was read the problem. Use what you knew, go back to those lessons to see, okay, what words am I looking for? I see a strategy. What operation did I use that strategy for? So, number 8. There are 21 fish in an aquarium at the zoo. In order to clean the aquarium, the zookeeper must put the fish in 3 smaller tanks. If the same number of fish are in each tank, how many fish are in each tank? Use repeated subtraction to solve. Let's see, Zari, you're having some computer trouble right now, so Kingston, loudly, otherwise I'm going to call on somebody else. What is the question in this problem?
If the same number of fish are in each tank, how many fish are in each tank?
How many fish are in each tank? Guys, remember I said this. If you see something like, if the same number of fish are in each tank, or there are the same number of blank, blah, 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 that's just telling you you can do multiplication or division. It's not like real life, where there's probably not going to be the same number of fish in each tank, and then you can't do multiplication or division because you don't have equal groups. Whenever you see something like this, if the same number of fish are in each tank, that means, hey, we're telling you it's all equal. There's equal groups. So you can multiply or you can divide. If you did not underline questions and box important information, do it with your red pen. Some of you are just refusing to do that, and it's really showing in the quality of your work because you're not looking for the important pieces of information. You're just reading it once and then going ahead and trying to solve it without looking for what you need to know to set up the problem and then solve it. So our question, how many fish are in each tank? Well, Kingston, first we have to look for our answer unit. Where is our answer unit?
After how many?
After how many? So our answer unit is fish. Now make sure you're writing these labels so that you know why you're circling it or boxing it or whatever. Okay, now Kingston, we also need to look for another word in our question. Do you remember what that word is? Sometimes we have it, sometimes we don't. Each. Very good. Do we have each in this question? Yes. So circle each because that tells us we are doing what? Is that it? Only multiplication? Or dividing? Each tells us we're either going to be multiplying or dividing. But each also tells us that not only that we're going to have 2 objects. We're not comparing the amount that one person has to the amount another person has, because then we'd see times as many or times more or something like that. If we see each, that means we have groups and we have objects in the groups. So remember, when we see each, we know we're going to have another unit. We're going to have a number that represents a different unit than fish. Where do we find that word that tells us, hey, you're looking for another unit, not just fish? After the word each. So in this case, it is the word, what, Kingston? Tank. So fish is going to be our answer unit. That's the unit our answer is going to be in. It's also going to be one of our numbers in our problem. We have the word each, which tells us we're multiplying or dividing by making groups. Times as many tells us we're multiplying by comparing. How many more does one person have than the other? If we have each, it means we're making groups. We're taking one item, a tank, and we're putting another item, fish, into that group. So, whatever comes after each is the other unit. That means you're going to find a number that represents that unit in the problem. So we're not just looking for the number of fish, we're also looking for a number of tanks. Okay, Kingston, so now we know everything important our question tells us. Let's go ahead and read each sentence and see if there's important information. There are 21 fish in an aquarium at the zoo. Kingston, what's important about that? 21 fish. We see our answer unit after how many, and we see a number before it. That means that's part of our problem. Now let's read the next one. In order to clean the aquarium, the zookeeper must put the fish in 3 smaller tanks. What's important about that sentence? 3 smaller tanks. Because we see our other unit, the word that comes after each, which is tank, and we see a number before it. Even though it's a word, it's still a number. We see 3. So now we have to figure out, okay, are we multiplying or are we dividing? So Kingston, our answer unit is fish. So we're trying to figure out how many fish. If we're taking 21 fish and we're putting it into 3 smaller tanks, are we ever going to end up with more than 21 fish, Kingston? If we're taking our 21 fish and we're putting them into 3 tanks, are we going to end up with a number larger than 21? No, we can't end up with more fish. We can't take our total fish, put them into tanks, and somehow end up with more. Which means, are we going to be doing multiplying, which gives us a bigger number of fish, or dividing, which gives us a smaller number of fish? I can't hear you. Sit up. I still can't hear you. Division. So now that we know division, we know what order we have to put our numbers in. Which number has to come first, 21 or 3? Can't hear you. Aaron, which number has to come first? Which is? 21. Our only other number is what? 3. So we're doing 21 divided by 3, but are we just going to write the answer, Aaron? No, because what does our problem tell us to do? Use repeated subtraction. So if you did not use repeated subtraction, put -1 right there. Also, you didn't even really have to figure out which operation you're doing, because what's the only operation we do repeated subtraction with, Aaron? Division. Yes, Colin?
So my pen was open and it kind
That's
of
okay.
did dots.
That's okay. Okay, so Aaron, we have to do repeated subtraction with 21 and 3. So 21 minus 3 equals? 18 minus 3 equals? 15. 15 minus 3 equals? 12 minus 3 equals? 9 minus 3 equals? 6 minus 3 equals? 3 minus 3 equals? What do we do now?
We count how many times we subtracted.
Good. So count with me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So that means 21 divided by 3 is?
7.
But to finish our answer to how many fish are in each tank, we need 7 fish. Because remember, whatever comes after how many is the unit our answer is in. not the word that comes after each. Because the answer to the question, how many fish are in each tank, would not be 7 tanks. Does that answer make sense? No. Okay, so make sure you have all of that. You need to be finding the important information in the problems. You need to be looking for these words and figuring out what they mean. If you look for the words, you should be able to figure out what they mean. If you don't look for the words and you just try to go ahead and just do it rather than reading it and really comprehending it, you're not going to be able to do it. You're going to get the wrong answer. And you're probably noticing that right now. Okay. Helper number 2, please sanitize, erase, sanitize. Okay, so everybody look at number 9. Gina has 5 pencils. Her sister has twice as many pencils. Write both a multiplication and related division equation to solve the unknown number. Use a variable for the unknown. Solve. Okay, Cullen. What is the question in this problem? Sometimes it's a command, which means it's telling us do this. It's not asking us to do it, it's telling us to do it.
Write both a multiplication and related division equation to find the unknown number.
But that's not all we have to do, because we also have to,
Use a variable for the unknown.
and we have to,
Solve.
which means we need an answer. They're just telling us you need the equation, you need to use a variable for the unknown, then you have to figure out what is the unknown. Okay, so now let's go back through. We don't see each or how many, but we know, what do we not know? How many of what? Do we know how many pencils Gina has?
Yes.
Do we know how many more her sister has?
No. Well,
Do-
yes.
Yes, but do we know exactly how many her sister has?
No.
No. So her sister's pencils are the unknown. So let's go back through and figure out what we do know. We know we're trying to find out how many pencils. So that's our answer unit, right?
Yes.
Since we don't have a place to solve, let's write this note to ourselves to the side. Pencils are the answer unit, because we know we're trying to figure out how many pencils does her sister have. Now, Cullen, do we have each anywhere here?
No.
So are we taking a group and putting items in it and trying to figure out how many groups or how many items?
No.
Or are we comparing how many one person has to how many another?
How many person has to another?
Good. So we're looking for something like times as many. So first, let's go back through and see if we can find anything that matches pencils. Gina has 5 pencils. Any important information?
Yes.
What is it?
5 pencils.
5 pencils. Her sister has twice as many pencils. I don't see times as many, and I don't see a number with pencils, but what do I see?
Twice as many.
What does twice mean?
2
2
times.
times. So twice as many tells us 2 times. Now, if Gina's sister has twice as many as Gina, is she going to have more or less?
More.
So what operation do we have to do to solve this problem?
Multiplication.
Multiplication. Okay, now what numbers do we know? We know the number of,
5 Gina's pencils.
we know how many pencils Gina has, which is,
5.
we know how many more her sister has, which is,
2.
do we know how many pencils her sister has?
No.
So what do we need to use?
Related division. Alright.
To set up our equation, what do we need to use? What does the problem tell us to use? We don't know how many pencils. That's the unknown, so what do we have to use?
A variable.
What variable would you like to use? We are using letters.
A P.
A P for pencils.
Yes.
But are we done writing equations yet?
No.
Because what do we have to do now?
related.
Write a related division fact with our variable, because do we know the answer yet? It says to use a variable for the unknown, then solve. So how do we have to write this related division equation with our variable?
P divided by 5 equals 2.
Good. Or you could have written P divided by 2 equals 5. Either one would have been correct. If you do not have the variable in this place, that means you lose, well, don't write it, but you're going to lose half a point. You won't lose a whole point as long if you have the actual number that goes here, but you will lose half because you weren't supposed to solve until after you did the related multiplication and division fact with the variable. So now all we need to do is solve, right?
Yes.
We can solve this using basic facts. It doesn't tell us to use repeated subtraction or anything like that. So we can just solve as a basic fact, right? 5 times 2 equals what?
10.
So that means that P equals the number her sister has, which is
10 pencils.
10 pencils. So make sure you have all of this. If you have 10 divided by 5 equals 2 instead of P, or your variable divided by 5 equals 2, do not cross it out. Just make sure to write it P divided by 5 equals 2 to the side. If you have P divided by 2 equals 5, that's fine. If you have 10 divided by 2 equals 5, you're going to lose half a point, but it's okay. If you have 2 times 5 equals P, that's fine. If you do not have any variables, you'll lose a point. Okay, we just have one more question. Easy, we can do it fast. It's a basic fact.
Miss Phyllis,
Yes?
I think I got it.
Okay. Zadie, number 10, it says test practice. Find the missing number. 15 divided by 3 equals
3.
unknown. This is a basic fact. It doesn't tell us to use repeated subtraction. We're not doing a lesson where we're learning a new strategy. That means if it's a basic fact and you know it, you can just solve it. 15 divided by 3 equals,
3.
which is answer. Which bubble?
Oh, answer B.
B, 3.
15 divided by 3 isn't.
Oh, no,
3.
I'm sorry, it is. I'm going too fast. That isn't correct. 15 divided by 3 is not 3. Because that would mean, and is that true, Zadie?
No.
No. So that means this would be the same as what times 3 equals 15? That's why you got to know your basic facts. Victoria.
5. C.
C, 5. If 5 times 3 equals 15, that means 15 divided by 3 equals C, 5. So make sure you have corrected. Go ahead and put your red pen away. Michaela, go turn that into the math tray.